Very good evening, everyone. Thank you very much once again for joining me on this chat of ours. Welcome, everyone. I'll take some questions down the track, but as I said and made the recent announcement that we'll be talking about the recent budget that was presented by government in Parliament last Tuesday, and the opposition had an opportunity to reply on Friday. So now that it's been passed, but I think it's important that we make a few comments that should give some light to some of the issues that the budget is presenting for us as a country and going forward 2023. So thank you once again for everyone for being patient with me and taking this opportunity to exchange some notes and views about our economy and its performance, which we expect its performance over the next few weeks or next 12 months. So the budget itself is a big budget, big revenue, big expenditure, big deficit, because the expenditure is higher than the revenue for the country, and as a result the deficit levels continue to remain above 5.6 in 2022. That was the projected in the supplementary budget, and 2023 run about 4.4%, but on average about 5 to 6% over the last 3 or 4 years since 2019. So that is quite concerning, because after 4 years we should be able to be reducing the deficit, so we don't have to borrow more money so far as printing money on treasury bills and treasury bond from the central bank to fund our budgets going forward. So the budget is an important policy document for any government, and I think it's a serious mistake that we go for these big, massive numbers, thinking that setting big records to that effect will mean that we are performing better. In fact, we are not. The government talks about spending on recurrent budget and capital budget that they are trying to invest. There's quite a substantial increase in the capital expenditure for the country, meaning that more and more projects are being earmarked to be funded, particularly the Connect PNG infrastructure program. That's a program that our government, when we were in government in 2012 to 2018, we have started the concept of Connect PNG, and of course the current government continued with that program. We are very pleased that they are doing so. But Connect PNG is not only about the roads. It's always been about the infrastructure setting for the entire country, which includes airports, bridges, roads, shipping, aviation industry. It has to cover those sectors, and unfortunately the budget only captures most part of the roads that to me has yet to be fully costed, fully designed. We don't know what was the total investment required for many of these earmarked projects, but we seem to be just spending blindly without due care, thinking that the building of that infrastructure is going to address all our problems in the country. Unfortunately, some of these roads are uneconomical projects, and they will be a burden to the nation going forward over many, many years. So we need to prioritize which roads go first, which will help grow our economy, and of course be able to build opportunities for our small to medium enterprises, and of course help provide employment for our people, which will in turn continue to feed the national budget through the taxes that it will collect from companies and individuals. So I am very pleased to see that they are increasing the capital expenditure, but at the same time, many of these projects are not fully costed and not fully fully explained in the sense that we are not able to complete many of these projects in 2023. It will be projects that will be carried out over the next few years. So all in all, I think that's where we are. But in terms of the economy itself and the position that our children will be burdened over many, many years because of these high deficit budgets that we are continuously putting forward. In fact, when we were in government in 2018, our budget deficit was only 2.5%. And the aim was to try and get it down to a balanced budget after the 2022 elections and moving forward. But we still remain at very high deficit. So I'm hoping that government will come to its senses and try and rein in the expenditure, the anger for these huge expenditures that they're trying to roll out in the country has not been able to be prioritized where many of these priority programs can be funded. I'm very happy that the government has increased funding for social services like education, health, huge increase in law and order, and the judiciary. This is welcome, but again, the efficient use of those funds to achieve the outcomes that we want is very, very important. And sadly, it's sad to say that some of these departments over the past few years, we've seen massive complaints coming from the public about their undisciplined way that they are spending government funds in the rolling out of services that is happening around the country. And I think, when you see the sort of increased level of violence that is taking place, and yesterday we saw this burning of assets owned by Papua New Guineans in the Ella province, which is certainly supporting the LNG project there now. This kind of violence that is taking place does not encourage confidence with the investors. So that puts in place risks for the other LNG projects that are coming online, the Papuan LNG and the Pyongyang LNG. So the cost of security and protecting those assets will continue to increase, and we don't want to burden the economy anymore. And I think this increased spending in law and order must be focused at achieving certain outcomes. It shouldn't be just allowing agencies of governments hiring cars and just spending free willy, which will at the end of the day, it's not going to achieve much for the country and the economy as a whole. So the only reason why that the government is saying that GDP has increased, which we welcome, is only because of the LNG prices going up, and we are now getting some windfall coming into the country. So there is additional revenue for about 2 billion kina coming in, which government has taken note of it, but also increased equal or more expenditure side of the budget, which just eats up all that windfall that we are getting. Now, these prices for LNG will not remain high forever. Now that because of the Ukraine conflict, we see that the LNG prices are remaining high because the supplies of LNG coming out from Russia has been affected by that conflict. So this windfall is one-off. And in my thinking, that should have been applied to reducing some of our exposure on short-term borrowings, particularly for domestic borrowings, down at the central bank. That will cut down our interest costs. Now the interest and debt servicing is now become the third biggest government expenditure according to this budget. We cannot continue to let that continue to increase. We should try and reduce the treasury board. Concessional loans that are coming from ADB and Exim banks and our donor partners is okay, because you have the concessional rates of 2 or even 3%, and then it's extended over a grace period of 5 years and possibly another 25 years to repay that loan. So the infrastructure can work. We borrow to build this infrastructure so that we can be able to repay that over time. So I think it's important that we address these issues in a very logical manner. And this windfall, as I said, is one-off. 2 billion or so of LNG revenue coming in. And that is the only driver that is growing our GDP in the country. The only driver, because all other parts of our economy are struggling very badly. Now that the government has appointed 4 ministers looking after different agriculture divisions, sadly, that sector is again neglected. Even though we've got 4 different line ministers and line departments that have been created, that's going to continue to chew up more government funds to maintain the operations, but they're not coming up with plans that will yield some outcomes because of those additional ministries and additional programs that they are trying to put forward. But again, the budget falls short of in terms of allocation to that sector, especially agriculture and small to medium enterprises, and of course manufacturing. These are the drivers that can create opportunity for employment for young people. We've got about 60% of our population is, from what I'm told by various international observers and agencies that tracking our population growth. They think that it's over 60% of our population is below 25 years of age. Now that is a growing concern, because how are we going to fund and create opportunity for these young people who are coming into the workforce? Many of them have not been properly finished education, and many of them probably have not got the right skill sets that will maintain their livelihood and lively income that will keep them moving and being a productive member of our country. This is where the problem is, and I think it is important. That we continue to provide a very clear vision, clear plan that will address. So investment in education is very important. We must restore the free education program that we started, and then of course when the current government came into power, they continue to play up around it, and as a result there's a bit of collapse. The system is collapsed in the country. We hear that education department head office here in Port Moresby has been shut for over 4 weeks. They're not able to have access to the head office. This is a very crucial department that is running the education program so that it will create productive citizens in the future. So, whilst we allocate large sums of money, we must be able to pay our bills so that they can continue to roll out these programs over time. So one of the concerns that we have is about free education, that the government should be able to restore that in its totality, not just in piecemeal basis. The second issue is about health. It is again very important that young people maintain good, healthy, so they can have a healthy life, which again makes them become more productive. When healthy people are working continuously in the workforce, they become much more contributors of the development of the country. So I think that it is important that we continue to fund these programs like health, education consistently, and the allocations are good. In terms of the countries addressing about continuous challenges that we are facing, we recently saw the collapse of the availability of foreign currency to pay for some of the fuel supplies that we get in the country. As a result, the Energy shut down for a day or so. This is concerning again, because we must be able to pay for those imports, and timely interventions by government is very, very important. I think it is important that the government sits down, works with the oil and gas companies and mining companies, that they bring in the foreign reserves that they are parking offshore, which various agreements have allowed them to park outside of the country, because there was fear of overflowing of foreign currency in the country, which will give rise to more inflationary issues in the country. So as a result, the agreements allowed for this process to take place, where they park some of the revenue coming from the exports outside of the country. They must be told that they have to be also be equally responsible to the nation and its people and to the economy. They must play their part, and that is that they bring in the export value revenue back into the country, so we can try and meet some of these outstanding foreign currency issues that we require. And it's concerning because when businesses cannot be able to pay for bills, then the supply issues become more and more prevalent in the country, and you'll see that as Papua New Guinea is still becoming very import dependent country, where most of the things that we now consume and use in the country are all imports. We are not encouraging manufacturing. That's why I said we have to put more money into manufacturing, support the businesses who are in manufacturing, support the people who are in agriculture, support the people who are in tourism. All these SMEs will be nation building things which will employ thousands and thousands of people. We've got far too many unemployed people around the country who we still need to feed and look after. And that is why it's very saddening to see that only few people who are working are now looking after these massive extended families right across the country. So the government must think in a very strategic manner, where one is to try and get industries moving that will give us the access to the income that they will require for trying to ease the cost of living pressures that we are going through every day. So I think it's very, very important that we focus on employment creating industries, and government should work hard at that. We also need to work together in making sure that government is not living beyond its means. That means that we must try and reduce our expenditure across the government. The cost of doing government business in the country, operating the government in the country, is increasing every year. In this budget, that cost has continued to increase. Despite the government's bipartisan committee, or the committee that they have set up to review the public sector reforms, those outcomes are not coming out quick enough. Then those interventions must happen so that we can have some savings, so that we can reduce our expenditure level in the country. And I think it's important that we continue to work towards that. As many of you know, we are, as I said, we are very disappointed. This is now the almost fourth budget of the current government, but all the budgets it's just big spending, big debt, and big huge deficit. So we just need to correct ourselves and try and rein in that deficit down to a balanced budget within this term of Parliament. We can't just keep on deferring it out so that because we think that the decisions are too hard, so we don't have to try and address them. I think I know that I want us to be positive about our country and its challenges that we are facing, that we have to face together. We want to be constructive. We want to make sure that we give the ideas that will give confidence in making sure that the economy grows and grows properly. And one of the things that we see is the business confidence in the country is very low, because we have a situation where the government's decisions that they make and policies that they make, that they have a situation where they're changing these decisions back and forth. They're not consistent, they're not steady, and as a result, I think that business confidence is waiting and seeing. They said, listen, if we start investing a huge capital into investments in the country, then the safety of that investment is now under question, because governments keep on changing policies and decisions that they make. And the recent saga about some of the major projects that we have online. These projects were ready to go into implementation stage 3 or 4 years ago, but since the new government came in, they wanted, of course, in all fairness, they wanted to review the decisions of the previous government, which is their basic right to do so. But in the process, we have been now shutting down. We have been shutting down the existing Porgera mine, and we have had so many dates that we are opening up next month, next year. This has been going on for a while. I think this is a time when Prime Minister must step in. If the officials are dragging their feet, and if individuals or agencies are dragging their feet, for the sake of the nation, and the economy depends on projects like that. So there must be some certainty around Porgera and Wafi Golpu and Papua LNG, Pyongyang. All these projects are crucial to giving confidence to other businesses at the back of these huge projects. They will have the confidence to come and invest in other sectors in the country as well. Some of them to support, of course, those resource project developments. But at the same time, there will be enough business being generated, as we have experienced with the first PNG LNG projects, where when ExxonMobil started the construction of that project, we saw a massive increase in the doing of business in the country, and that generated some a very good income and employment for our people. I also want to say this. We have to be, when we go down, when we set government priorities and government plans and strategy, we also need to worry about what the global economic community is looking at PNG. Because when you look at PNG as a country, we need to maintain the level of confidence to attract investors into PNG. And when we go and set up unrealistic policy pronouncements, like we will be the food basket of the Asia Pacific region, or we will be the richest country in the world by a certain time, these are unrealistic. Of course, we all want to achieve some of these things, but be realistic about what you set out and what you are able to achieve and deliver to our people. I think when government start to make this kind of decisions for us, we find that it is we become a laughing stock of the world in there to say so. I think government needs to come down and a little bit more realistic on some of these expectations that they are doing. Now, one of the most widely discussed issues about cost of living issues in the country. Now, the budget does not address much of those, even although they are saying that they are going to cut down taxes for people who are earning up to 20,000 kina a year. That relief is much welcome, but it's not going to save everybody in the country. A lot of our people, and especially those in the villages, do not earn 20,000 kina a year. Most of them would be earning much less. So the realistic issues are about prices of goods and services that we deliver out to our people, especially for basic items. I think we've got ICCC, which is an organization that manages anti-competition and pricing issues in the country, but it's very much underfunded, and the office of the price controller needs to be re-established, and then we can say that these basic items like rice and noodles and cooking oil and things like that all of us require every day for our survival, be placed under control of an office where they can regularly check the pricing that is going on. Because sometimes we see some of the traders taking advantage of the situation we are in and continuously increasing prices unnecessarily. So we need to re-establish especially pricing mechanisms for important things about bread and butter and milk and cooking oil and all these things are supposed to be basic items that the price controller must be given the utmost task to control and come down hard and punish those offenders who are deliberately putting this hardship onto our people. The second issue is the global economy, as far as many central banks around the world, the things that we are reading from institutions like IMF and World Bank, they're expecting a little bit of growth, but in some economies there's a fear that they will get into a recession, because in many parts of the world, like US and of course in Europe, you have inflation continuously increasing in Australia and many developed economies. And in order to try and control that and stop that rise in inflation, the central banks are using the tool of increasing interest rates, trying to curb that. But when you increase interest rates, sometimes it doesn't really help, because it restricts the availability of capital to private sector and other people who are able to borrow, invest, and grow our economy. So in this case, in PNG is a very classical example where many of our super funds and our banks invest in all their money, most of their money, to buying treasury bills so that the government can be able to fund its budget, the deficits that we are talking about. So in this instance, there's close to 5 billion kina that we have to borrow, and most of it from domestic markets. And that money will be taken out from the banks and the super funds, which they should be really lending to the business community and individuals to do business around the country. But instead, when the government takes the money out, the cost of borrowings and cost of doing business in PNG continues to increase, because, of course, now there's a limited amount of cash available for competitive arrangements where people can go and try and borrow money. So we are in this vicious cycle where there is credit limits for industries like in agriculture and tourism, and especially in PNG, because the land tenure is not is very limited. Banks want protection of the loans that they're given, so they always ask for titled properties, and as we know, many of our land is customary owned. So we need to be a little bit more innovative, and as I said, this windfall that LNG has given us this year, and it'll give us next year, is that should be used to pay down the treasury bills and the notes that we are taking here for the 12-month treasury bills or 24 months that government continues to get. So you will find that this budget that we are doing today is, again, big expenditure. I think it's a bit unnecessary, and government will certainly be required to do another supplementary throughout the 23 year coming up. But when that's already been projected in the speech by the treasurer, saying that they will make changes as we go along. But when you frame the budget, you don't want to make too many changes and too many pronouncements, which again will go into affecting confidence of the business community and the major players in the economy. And I think it's important that we continue to maintain some level of consistency. And when we frame the budget, it must be done as much as possible so that you are not forced to introduce supplementary budgets along the way. So I think all in all, you will find that the budget is generally acceptable, but on the basis of what we have seen so far, they don't have a medium-term development plan. There's no medium-term development strategy for the country. There is no planning department normally comes up with a 5-year rolling medium-term strategies, which I think it's non-existent today. Although even though we're in a new term of parliament, we should have a 5-year rolling plan, which will then the budgets are framed according to those plans, what you are going to achieve over the next few years. And then funding must be consistent to those programs that because we are already looking for the outcomes that we want. Better healthcare, better, when we were in government, we made sure that we build a new hospital every year or so, all around the country. New airports, new terminals, and new ports and new roads. This has got to be funded year by year consistently, and then you will achieve the outcome that you can. So in terms of managing the budget, I think the implementation will be crucial. I have a feeling that the the budget implementation process has been a major challenge for any government, but more so for this government over the past few years, because now we've seen that ministers going around ordering departmental heads to write checks and make payments and all those things that has never been done before. Again, we are going down to a very dangerous way of doing business in our country, and government needs to tighten that process, try and differentiate the differences between the responsibilities of the departmental heads and the departments and the ministerial as a policy maker. This interference and continuous involvement in running the day-to-day affairs of the departments by a political leader is again very dangerous. So we have to rebuild the confidence, we have to rebuild the accountability process within those departments, and of course they need to account for every money that has been given to them as we are now moving into a new budget cycle calendar year coming up in 2023. Also, I want to say that the Treasury is always takes a new leaf out of the new page, where he is always trying to blame the previous government. I have no issues about that. I think it's important that every one of us are held to account for our actions. But now that this is now going to the fifth year, or 2023 will be the fifth year of government, I think they need to see where they are making the mistakes and correct it through the budget process, and then try and manage the policies and the programs that they are introducing. Because if they are not focused, we'll see a mixed bag of outcomes that we are getting today. Just for example, law and order issues in the country is now just almost out of hand. Health and education department, as I said, was shut down for a month or two, or 5 or 6 weeks, I'm told, because of non-payment of rent. All the blackouts that we are getting throughout the country, businesses need to run on energy. Energy security is not given the priority and driven to make sure that there is reliable and sustainable energy available to our citizens and our businesses. So I think all in all, you will see that the government has got a lot more work ahead of itself. I know many think that when we are in opposition, we are there to criticize only. No, we are trying to also be constructive, try and present some areas where they think that we have had a opportunity to do what is good for the country, and I'm certain that we are able to come out of this much stronger if we all work together in making sure that we correct some of the mistakes that we are making, and spend on areas that are going to give the best outcome and best performance for our citizens, especially our young people. So in opposition, we try our best to do that. And I know many, as a leader of the party in opposition, the PNC, many have been thinking, why didn't Peter O'Neill take up the role of the opposition leader? I didn't want to make Parliament become sort of a personality issue between myself and Marape, or myself and individuals in government. So, among our group in opposition, we thought that we know that the opposition leader is the most experienced and most qualified person who can lead us into such a way where we have a constructive opposition rather than it's personality driven. So that is why I'm sitting at the back, supporting our opposition leader and new deputy opposition leader. And they are doing an excellent job under very difficult circumstances. When they took office, the entire opposition budget has been exhausted, and of course Parliament has not been able to support the work of the opposition. So opposition has got a function in this country about trying to hold the government of the day to account, and it must be properly budgeted and funded as well. And for governments to use the process to undermine that office, then we will have serious issues about accountabilities in the country. The second issue is about budgets for judiciary and for the Parliament. These are institutions of government arms of government that are independent and they are not answerable to each other. Our constitution has created that specially so you can maintain some level of accountability in a democratic society we live in. Today we see a government that is been not consulting the judiciaries properly and parliament properly, and much of their budget allocations have been underfunded, not to the request of the amounts that those executive arms of government have asked for. The constitution is very clear. You must fund what they ask for. If you are not able to do so, you need to go and sit down with them and negotiate an outcome that everybody needs to. But I think it's important that you find that this country, we continue to undermine each of these institutions. And I think it's important that we try and give them back their independence and make sure that they run these institutions properly. And I think you can be able to do that. So I'm very happy that there has been some increase in the parliamentary allocation. Hopefully some of the chairmanships of the different committees, the parliamentary committees that are there, are able to be funded properly and working. And I think it can be able to get a better performance in Parliament than what has been in the past because of lack of funding to Parliament. But all in all, I think our biggest concern is unemployment. As I said, many of these projects that have been outstanding for many, many years now, we must get that moving so that our people can. During COVID, many of the people were being sacked or they were displaced during that period, and those people need to get back to the workforce. And the only way we can get back to the workforce is by opening up all these projects around the country. So I think it is important that we continue to make sure that we fund employment opportunity projects that are coming up on stream where industries are able to. So agriculture is one of them, tourism is one of them, manufacturing is one of them. And then these 3 or 4 projects, Wafi, Golpu, you look at Pogra reopen. Pogra must be reopened very, very soon. I think there's been enough talking going on, enough discussion going on, and I think somebody's not doing their job. I think it's important that Prime Minister intervenes, gets in, and I'm sure that we can be able to get it back on track. And there's a lot of law and order issues now driving in that project area, which given rise to many of the social issues that we are receiving. So I think you will find that this is the opportunity to Prime Minister to make an intervention and get our country back on track, and especially on those 2 or 3 projects that I mentioned. But we are a very resilient country, and I think you will find that we'll come through this much stronger. We need to work together and build a stronger economy, and the challenges that we are facing and the sacrifices that we are making will make Papua New Guinea a better place, and we deserve a better budget. And I think a better budget will give us a better future for our children. And this budget needs to try and get an economic plan that's going to deliver to the expectations of our people. I know there's a lot of questions that's been asked through the comments that I'm reading. Some of the comments are quite interesting. That they think that 1 or 2 of them has become too personal. Listen, you may not agree with what I say, you may dislike what I say, but I don't come around offending you, or I don't come around calling individuals by names. Let's have a mature, constructive engagement, and if you don't like it, please, this is a free country, but it's unnecessary that we call ourselves all sorts of things. So let's get the government to stop spending more than what we earn, so that we can try and have a balanced budget quickly. Let's stop spending on non-priority projects and programs that are not priority to the country and to our people. All these unnecessary trips and spending and all these overseas trips that everybody's taking. They should prioritize which is of more benefit to the nation, and let's focus on those, and taking all our MPs all around the world for just watching rugby league and things like that. But I think we have a country to run that requires our attention, and let's continue to work towards it. And also let us invest in things that we can deliver. Not just putting money down the programs that are not going to deliver for our country. And those, once we start doing these kind of things, I think you will see that PNG economy will start to improve immediately. And let's get Pogra open. Let's try and get Pogra back on track, and let's try and get Wafi Gold to starting. Let's get the Papua LNG going now. We've been talking about this for a while. Let's get it going. Let's get SME and agriculture and tourism and manufacturing going in this. This is the basic thing that will hold this country together and continue to grow the economy of our country. If we do not invest in those sectors over the next few years, you will find that employment opportunity will be limited. It won't deliver us a strong growth that we want. We can't continue to invest in unnecessary things that are not going to build our economy. So I think it's important that we start to rethink in some of the things that we need to do. As I said, the GDP growth, what we produce in a country, and the growth is good. But only thing is that GDP does not feed our people. It does not feed our people. GDP, the biggest beneficiary of the GDP today's growth is the LNG revenue that we are getting. That's driving the growth of the GDP. And the biggest beneficiaries are the oil and gas companies and their shareholders. It's got nothing to do with how well the economy has been managed, or how well the country has been managed. And we've had some issues with that over the last few days. So last few years. So I think it's important that GDP, while we say there's a big growth and we are all jumping up and down, but it doesn't really benefit us. Also, in terms of the revenue, as I said, revenue increases just largely due to LNG exports, better prices, more demand for our oil, gas in the Asian markets. So, but we know that it'll come down. It'll come down sometime soon, and when you don't know when the war conflict or Ukraine will stop. I think it's important that when it does stop, the prices will readjust again. So it's and of course the OPEC countries limiting the production of oil is also again give a boost to the oil prices globally, and again we are beneficiaries for that as well. But on the other matter about a few local new tax measures that they have introduced, like banking and the banking industry and finance industry to pay more than 45% tax on their profits, that's fine. But again, it'll just curb investment in the banking sector. As we know, when Bank and BSP got listed in Australian Stock Exchange, and I think the other one got listed in Singapore Stock Exchange, there are people out there who are invested in this industry. So when the shareholders increase the capital investment into those banks, the more money is available for us to borrow and go out and do business and look after our families and things. So it's just not a one-way cycle. It's one thing leads to the other, and it affects a lot of us. So we just need to be careful about this. We need to, as I said, Connect PNG is a very good program. I support that policy, but it needs to be staged out properly. I think the biggest issue today is the law and order issues in the country, health and education, and unemployment. Those are the 3 or 4 biggest issues in the country. So government should focus on that. And rather than say, we'll go and do all these roads and we'll go and do all these things. But as I said, most of them are not been costed out properly, given to few individual contractors who have not bidded and costed and designed the roads. And I think it's important. It's important that important that we continue to maintain some focus, but focus on the issues that are on us. That the cost of living pressures, as inflation continues to go up and prices continue to go up, while real wages for our people, the minimum wages that, in fact, I think it was during our time in government when we increased the minimum. That was the last time minimum wages were increased. So government needs to go back and sit down and review the wage structure in the country, and then and make the necessary adjustments so that real wages are in line with the cost of living pressures that we are experiencing in the country. So I think inflation is a big thing, and I have a feeling that we are not taking this matter too seriously. In terms of support, I think the budget does not support enough for the young people in the country, apart from the education subsidies that are going out. I think the distribution of those funds to the schools are not on a timely basis. As a result, it affects the operations of the schools and everyone else, so that the management and the board of governors of those schools are struggling to keep the schools open while waiting for those funds to come. So I think we need to find a way so that we can be able to manage this better. The second issue is that on debt management. Debt, as I said, is becoming the third biggest expenditure of government today. I think over 2.3 billion kina will be spent as they projected, but it can be reduced. And it can be reduced by borrowing less money in the domestic market, because that is the most expensive loans that we are getting. 6 or 7 or 8%, depending on demand. The prices go up and down. So I think it's important that we keep a close eye on it. Next year, 2023, our total debt, as predicted by the budget, would be over 54 billion kina. That's quite alarming. You are now reaching towards almost 60% of GDP. That's going into a dangerous territory. So we just need to try and rein it back down to where we left it before, 30 to 35% of GDP. That's a manageable and acceptable level, and I think it's important that the government stays focused on driving and reining it back. So they should be using the one-off windfall that we are getting on LNG in this period to target reducing debt. That will also now reduce the interest costs that we are paying each year out of the budgets of the country. So I'll stop here, and then I'll take on some questions. But I think it's important that we continue to remain positive that the country is going through some challenging times, but we'll get out of it in the near future. Now, in terms of the questions, a lot of people are talking about cost of living pressures, and as I said, we need to establish a price controller's office properly, fund them properly, and be able to try and make sure that they go out there and set some of these traders who are putting these additional margins on it where it's giving more difficulty, and those prices of those basic items, they must be of course reduced now, so that people can afford to buy it. And then the second thing is what wages. There must be a real wage adjustment to the inflation that we are facing today and the cost of living pressures that we are facing today. Now, there's a question about is there a possibility that we can reduce personal income tax from 30% to 25%, say? The government has, as I said, given some relief to people who are earning less than 20,000 kina or less, but they need to increase that. When we went out to the elections in 2022, we said we will try and increase it up to people who are earning 30,000 kina a year can pay zero tax. So those they need to go back and make the assessments of where is it hurting our people most. How many of the people are still facing the cost of living pressures at what salary levels? So our experts need to go in there and sit down and work through it. Now, we've also got people talking about the lawlessness in Ella, especially, and the killings that are going on up there. The leadership of that province need to go back home and really, we can do as much as we can. We can send so many policemen and security personnel there to resolve this, but ultimately it's the community itself that will find a way. So we have to get the leaders of the province to step up, go back to the province, sit down with the people who are having this conflict, and then we can take it on from there. I think that's the only way we can be able to manage those law and order issues right across the country. Now, I understand from also a question here that they're talking about the resignation of the OTML managing director. We are hearing all sorts of reports, but I am hoping that these unconfirmed reports about political interference and of the running of the mine and things like that. We took over the mine, and when we tried to make sure that there was an independent board of directors and independent management going there. I think it is important that we allow them to carry out their responsibilities without putting too much pressure on them on dividends and things like that. So I'm hoping that we will be able to overcome this, and the current managing director who was there is a well-experienced member of the management team. He's been there with the mine for I think over 30 years. He deserves to finish his contract and allow him to continue to perform, and his performance can only be judged and reviewed by the directors, who are, of course should remain independent as well. Somebody's asking me to explain about Giro gas power agreement signed between MRDC, government, ExxonMobil, and the problems. I am not familiar with that deal, but I'm aware that there is a new power station being built outside of the LNG plant down at the bay there. I think it is important to note that getting this big investment going in a project like this without fully understanding the whole chain of infrastructure that is required to connect that power station into Port Moresby. They need a transmission line from the power station to come into Port Moresby, and that transmission line has not been built yet, but they've already gone ahead and built a power station. Now, from what I understand, the agreement is that whether PNG Power takes the power now or not, they must still continue to pay. So that kind of arrangements are not commercially viable, and it should not be accepted. In fact, they should have a situation where the power producer must have the transmission line built as part of the construction of the power station, and then hooked it up to the consumer, which is Port Moresby City, and then some of our power issues could be resolved in a much better way. The second issue that, especially in Port Moresby, from what I understand, is that ExxonMobil, when we were in government, I had to put a very strong case to ExxonMobil, even though there was no domestic obligation arrangements between the LNG producer and the government. I had to I had to try and get them to provide power to Port Moresby City, and they did. But from what I'm told, is that the supply is no longer available. Somehow there's some disagreements between PNG Power and the government and the LNG producer. As a result of that supply is now not available, and that is affecting production in the country as well. So I think it's important that our government leaders must go and sit down with the management of ExxonMobil and get them to understand that they live in this community as well. And reliable supply of power to our businesses and our community, our residents, is very important, not only here but throughout the country. I think more discussions and more direct discussions with the suppliers, the better it is. Now, I'm told that shutting down of a mine when the gold prices was it a good decision? Well, I don't know why the decision was taken, but I think it was an opportunity that we've missed. There were good gold prices coming through. We were not able to take advantage of that. We shut down production, and now every day we delay the reopening of the mine, it's going to cost us more money. Every day the costs will keep on building up because to maintain those equipments and infrastructure at the mine site, it's going to take a little bit of costing and that cost will be borne by. Now we're claiming to be the major shareholder. That means the major burden of that cost will be borne by the government of Papua New Guinea and the people of Papua New Guinea. So we have to be realistic in what we say. Now, also we talk about. Can you explain why this government is trying to repay the UBS 3 billion Kina loan? Well, I have, that's Kim Ray is saying this, but Kim, UBS loan was repaid already by Kumul Petroleum Holdings by the sale of the shares that we bought. That was explained fully in the Commission of Inquiry, and all that needed to be said has been said. So there is no such thing as a UBS loan outstanding as of today. The loans have been fully paid off. Now, PNG is an abundance of resources. This is from Joshua Wami. My friend Joshua is saying PNG is in dire need of leadership. Well, we also need to work together with our leaders, and some of our leaders, may not have the experience to manage some of these issues. It's quite a difficult, challenging job to try and manage a country like PNG. So I think it's important that we work together in giving confidence to our leaders and supporting them. And we have to be men enough to also tell our leaders when they step out of the line, tell them, listen, this is wrong. This is what we expect from you. So our leaders can be able to correct their mistakes and learn from of the experiences that we've gone through, and try and make a better economy for our country. Can Air Niugini tickets prices be regulated? Yes, Air Niugini is, it's quite ridiculous when you are traveling, and especially for Papua New Guineans, it's already costly enough to pay for these high expensive airfares. But when you don't make it on time, or when you don't check in, and all these penalties that they are charging is ridiculous and unnecessary. People should have the right to change their flights whenever they want to travel and whenever they don't want to travel. It is their core right. But charging them more and cancelling tickets and things is something that we hear it's happening. And I think the sooner they stop that practice, the better it is. Can we open the airline industry for a third operator like Mangilo Place coming back? I think the aviation industry is got enough players there, and the current two airlines, Air Niugini and I think PNG, who are the major operators in the country, are struggling to survive out there, struggling to survive. So the whole industry needs a little bit of reworking, and I think most of it is because of the fees that these airlines are required to pay to CASA and to NAC, and then for the high cost of fuel and maintaining the operational staff. All these things are very, very expensive, and because the airlines are a global business, all the expenses you pay in US dollar. So when the Kenya continues to depreciate, your cost of getting parts and imports coming into the country, you will find that it will continue to increase. And that is why this industry is quite sensitive, and government needs to continue to support it, try and make it cheaper and affordable, but more reliable service for our people. And I think it's important. What areas of public service can we cut back on expenditure that will not impact on efficiency of service delivery? As I said, this funding of non-priority expenditure items in the budget needs to be cut. We're happy with health, education, law and order, and all those basic functions, but creating 4 new ministries for agriculture sector is an example in case where we don't need to 4 more new departments. We already have a bloated public service machinery in the country, and to have more departments just lining up and people getting paid and so forth, I think we will be able to continue to do that. Somebody's asking, can you please brief us on the COI into Motu Kia saga, please? Well, the sale was brought to government at that time by Kumul Consider Rollins. I think the inquiry is still going on. It will be unfair of me to make any public comment here, but I'm sure that they will tell us the outcome of that inquiry. But this is a commercial transaction done through our local companies and institutions. So we'll wait until the outcome comes. Now, somebody saying, what do you think about the 20% increase on log export tax? Should it affect employment and investment in our country? Yes, certainly. I think now a huge increase like that will mean that some of the timber operators in the country will shut down. We've always said that round log export should come to an end by, at that time, I think we predicted 2020. But before that, we left government. But if they continued on the same program, there was a good understanding with the timber industry people who are now starting to go towards downstream processing of the timbers in the country. That will create massive employment opportunities, and of course business opportunities for the owners. So you will find that there will be some hardship in the industry over the next few years. Why is it so hard to enforce farming and cattle industry? Can we produce our own rice, basic food? Yes, that's possible, and it can be done. It's proven, despite some of the earlier discussions about people saying that we cannot grow rice in the country and it must have vitamin additions onto the rice that's been sold in the country. That is really not quite true. Rice can grow in PNG, can be grown in big numbers, but we must get our families to, because the land is the biggest issue in the country. To have a highly commercial rice industry in the country, you need large chunks of land, and to have access to large chunks of land that is owned by customary landowners is not easy. And this is the challenge that is facing our country. Going forward, I think the small to medium family-sized plots are better. One, they can feed themselves, and two, if they produce more than enough, they can sell it to the mill. That mill should be centralized so that everybody, all the families, can be able to sell excess rice that they are producing to such a central milling area. So it's possible for us to produce rice and cattle in the country. Cattle, again, same thing. It requires large chunks of land to have a cattle industry, and it's not easy to have access to that land. And once we start a cattle industry, but we should be encouraging families to start looking after cattle for milk, so that you can have the children having much healthier upbringing in the families, where they can have access to milk, fresh milk every morning, and of course for protein they should have access to meat as well. So I think it's important that we do that. Joseph Andrews said, how can we solve the test problems in the country and so many school dropouts? Well, we need to make sure that business confidence returns, so that they can continue to invest money in the country and employ more people in the country. When people are making their own money, they don't have to be a problem to anybody else. So the school dropout systems in the country is a massive problem that we are all facing. And we must capture that, and they must be engaged in a productive manner. And the only way that can be done is investments in the sectors that I mentioned earlier. Apart from the resource projects, agriculture, SME, and manufacturing and tourism are the four biggest drivers of any employment of people in any country. And I think PNG we're doing ourselves a very big disfavor by not promoting these industries in the country. We see Can the government reduce the tax for alcohol? Well, they've had a 500% increase in alcohol tax this year. But what that'll do is that those who cannot afford to buy alcohol at a reasonable price will be now forced to do other antisocial behavior practices like taking drugs and things like that. So it does not resolve the issue for the country. It just exacerbates so it'll increase the other social issues that we will be facing the country. Is Bank of Papua New Guinea printing more money? Well, as soon as government continues to borrow more money through T-bills and treasury bonds that they issue for short-term budget support, they will be forced into printing money, and that has always been the problem in the country, and it'll continue to be the same. The tax increases for the banks, the customers will suffer. Most likely the increases will be passed on to the consumers. So you will see more fees and more interest, and everything has got a cost to it. So who's going to end up paying for it is you and I, who are the customers of the banks. Now, we're talking about Mazo Binin, who's saying that what are some ways that the government can do to encourage and increase foreign direct investments into PNG? Well, firstly, we have to be consistent with our policies, and it must be investment friendly and confidence building for the business community, so that they know that the rules don't keep on changing all the time when they come and operate and invest in the country. So once we do that, now you have a massive investment forum that's taking place in Sydney. It's just another trip that people will do to try and attract foreign direct investment in the country. But when you do not have projects like Wafi Golpu and Papua LNG and Pogara getting off the ground, you'll see that people will always be a little bit think twice before they come and invest in the country. When we said, oh, this problem has been hanging around for a long time, why are the issues not being resolved? Why are they not starting construction? And people are less likely to invest in our country, and they go somewhere else. Now, we have a question from Paulus Nixon. He said, can we stop issuing resource exploitation rather than preserve our resources for the future generation? We must think about the future generation to come, because the world will never come to an end. That's true. And the governments need to know that there are certain limits where you can be able to control development of resource projects in the country. And there are projects that were given licenses before, and they've spent money, gone out there and explored, and they found these resources like gold and copper or oil and gas reserves. There must be an opportunity to develop that commercially. But with the commercial benefits coming through and the sovereign wealth fund that has been recently established, they should also, while developing those resources, you must put certain amount aside for the future generation of our kids, so that they can benefit from that fund in the future. So this can be addressed in a few ways. Joby Yang said, the tuna industry, in your opinion, is a potential to be a major revenue income, and that the government should give some priority to investing in tuna factories. Yes, I think there are quite a number of tuna factories in the country, in Wewak, Medan, and Lae especially. But I think there is room for more, because we have got a good, healthy tuna stock in our country. But most of the tuna that has been caught are now taken to Taiwan or Thailand or to Philippines, and not all are coming back on shore. So we need to get these factories going, get employment in these factories. I'm told that in Medan alone, 4,000 or 5,000 people are employed at the tuna factory there. So that gives you the massive opportunity that is there. I think I agree with you that this has got a huge potential for the country and our government. Do you think that governments should stop getting into businesses and introduce internships? Yeah, I think it's quite a valid point. But there are some businesses where in the country where private sector is not ready yet to move in, and they may require like the water, supply of water and sanitation to our citizens. This is where government, even though it may not be making money, government must produce those services. So it depends on what sort of businesses. But I agree with you that if there are private sector that can do a better job in some of these sectors that government is involved now, they should just privatize it quickly, sell it on a public tender or auction, or have a competitive bidding process, and get the private sector to do it. They will do it better and bring a bit more efficiency into the system. All right, I think there are quite a number of questions going on at present, but I think some of the issues like the few questions they're coming through about foreign reserve regime. And I think PNG's got a foreign reserve balance of about 13 billion kina now. I think it went up by probably a few hundred million kina, but that is enough to only cover about I think 6 to 7 months of imports bill that you can cover. So as soon as the government is able to do so, they should be sitting down with the resource developers who are parking their export dollars overseas to bring them back in here, and that should also give confidence in building up our reserves, so it can support the currency and also be able to support our kina, and also be able to make foreign currency available to importers who are bringing goods into the country and bringing services into the country. Foreign currency is available to settle those bills. So I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and I'm certain that by talking to the resource developers, they can be able to bring that back. Now, just one other thing is that I think Phil is talking about trying to get some stability going in some of these areas. When we look at like coffee industry or the cocoa industry or copra industry, most of our small farmers out there are worried about price stability, because when the prices go down, many of them don't want to attend to their coffee gardens or copra or cocoa gardens. And when prices go up, everybody wants to get into farming. So what we need to do is have some stability where the price is stable, whether it goes up or down. Government should be able to set up a stabilization fund that can give the farmer a good price even when the global prices go down. So a form of stabilization fund existed before in the country before. I think it was done away many years back. But I think it's time to rethink it and bring that back on, so that we can be able to give price guarantee, income stability for our families, so that they can be able to look after themselves. Now, Peter Panau is talking about tourism. Since Fiji opened, he said there's almost 520,000 people have visited Fiji. Well, I agree. After COVID, during the COVID, Fiji's tourism industry was decimated. It just disappeared overnight. So, credit to them. They've been able to bring the people into the country a bit faster than we are. Today, I'm told that immigration at the airport, they don't even give a visa on arrival. I'm told that that facility was set aside during the COVID period, and I think it's important that we reestablish. Small things like that frustrate people if they want to travel. We must make it easier for people to come into the country, spend money, see our beautiful culture and beautiful country, and they can leave. So I think we sometimes become a big problem to ourselves, that we do things, unnecessary things that will cause enormous inconvenience for people who are trying to come and do business and be tourists into our country. Now, Nale Magi talks about why 70,000 plus teachers missed out on 3% increase in public servants. I think your teachers' union need to sit down with government and negotiate this. I think the 3% for the public servants were negotiated with PEA before, and that is a part of a industrial agreement, awards agreement that was signed between government and PEA. I think teachers should now go in there and say, you know, we still have the same cost of living pressures like all the other public servants, so they should come back and try and be fair to the teachers right across the country. So many CEOs and MDs are controlled by MPs and ministers. Do we have any boundaries? How does appointment take place? Well, agreed. You know, we are talking about differentiating the roles of these institutions, and I think it's important that we continue to allow the independent running of the public service machinery by those who have been appointed properly on merit-based appointment process. But in many cases now, the political leaders are interfering with the government and directing secretaries to write checks and directing this and directing that. There must be a distinction, and I think Ombudsman Commission needs to step up and try and bring some of these interferences under control and making sure that people do adhere to the distinct responsibility of leaders, political leaders as policy makers, and public servants and the CEOs and others as implementers. So yes, there is a need for a very quick intervention by institutions like Ombudsman Commission to get this sense back into respecting each other and demarcation of responsibilities. Now we've got quite a good amount about law and order. Somebody's talking about police brutality in the nation. That's a growing concern when our own people fear the police more than anyone else. This is very concerning. I think it's important that the agencies of government like police and all the other government departments, you are working for the people, and your priority should be the people and their welfare. If somebody has committed an offense, treat them with dignity and fairness, and then let the systems of justice deal with it. The police are not employed to enforce the judgment onto the people, you know, by physically becoming violent to them. And I think the sooner we get that under control, the better it is. I'm sure that the leadership at the police will continue to work hard on this. Yes, Immaculate Javier is saying that tourism can't thrive in PNG because of law and order issues. Yes, that is certainly the biggest issue in the country, and I cannot agree with you. I agree with you totally that law and order must be able to be brought under control. So we have a big budget, but as I said, big budgets something that's can be able to be delivered if we implement it properly and if we take ownership of the issues. But they don't attract investors, and we must attract investors by making the right decisions, right policies, and creating a conducive environment for business to thrive. We need to, as I said, jobs. I think that's one of the big areas that we need to cover. Stephen Anda is talking about what's your take on the NAC CASA saga? Well, I think these two departments and the leadership there need to grow up a bit and know that they work for the people of Papua New Guinea. They need to sit down and address the differences that they have in a mature way and not by causing inconvenience to the traveling public. I think at this stage, if these are not resolved in a amicable manner and in a mature manner, then Prime Minister needs to step in. He needs to step in and say, now, can you be able to get yourselves in order or move on? And he has to get these issues back on track. Ivan Rabu is asking, is a doctor concerned about the rise of recreational drugs? Yes, like marijuana and ecstasy and all the other drugs that are coming. We need to, the case recently about the plane load of drugs coming into the country. We must prosecute these offenders properly, and they must not be allowed to run around loose. And when we create that kind of environment in the country, such illegal industries like drugs industry blossom, and they will continue to grow. So the sooner we get our law enforcement agencies to do their work properly, investigate properly, document the evidence well, and then prosecute properly, then you will be able to have some success in addressing these issues in the country. Now, I know that we talked about the minimum wages. Yes, as I said, I think the minimum wages board talked about the labor rate in the country. The last one was done about, I would say, 10 or so years ago when we were in government. So I think it's timely now. They need to address the minimum wages issue in the country. Kevin Pocky says, in regard to ministers' interference in CEOs and MDs and things, is this possible to legislate? We have enough laws already that protects this, but the enforcement of that laws are not being respected and not being done properly, and that's why I said Ombudsman Commission needs to step up and start to give directions to both the minister and the secretary about their responsibilities. If the ministers are interfering with the secretaries, I think it's going to continue to be a major problem for us if we do not start addressing that. What are your thoughts on privatization of some government-owned enterprises? As this, yes, I think I have no issues with privatization of government-owned businesses, as long as the private sector can be able to do so and do it well. Then we should be able to privatize it, and we focus on issues like health and education rather than trying to do everything and be everything to everybody. So I think that's the way we can go. Would you agree to make PNG Power any PNG Water through IPO go public? Yeah, that's possible too. I think it's not a bad idea. I think Papua New Guineans, smaller shareholders can be given the opportunity through the stock exchange to initiate a public offering to the public to buy some shares, so that they can become more accountable to the public, and the shareholders can ask questions directly and through annual general meetings and so forth to try get it going. So I'm thinking that'll be the case. All right. Well, I'm thinking. Well, we've done almost 1 hour and 22 minutes, but more and more questions are coming in, and I am sure that I am not able to answer all your questions. But Phil Senior Onasu says, "What are your thoughts on PNG becoming a republic?" Well, we are approaching 50 years as an independent nation in 2025, in 3 years' time. And this question should be put to the nation, because I think, my respect for the late Queen is there, and she's now moved on, and there's a new king in place in London. But London is a little bit too remote for us. We can continue to remain as a Commonwealth member country, but to have the head of state to be someone living outside of PNG in this day and time and age, I think it's a little bit too much. I think the question comes now that we should become a republic. My thinking is that we've got too many people running around with titles like say and everything else. So it's about time we try and live with our own customs and our own values and our own things that we can respect as a country and move forward. So I agree with you. All right. Well, thank you once again, and I'm sure that we can continue these discussions into the future. I will try and respond to as many of the questions that you have put up. I'm sorry I'm not able to read everything, but I'm reading a few to try and get some discussion going on, but we can continue that after this show comes to an end. So thank you once again for joining me today. I hope that some of my comments did not offend anyone, but I just wanted to make sure that we have a constructive dialogue going, so that we can do better for our country and our people. So thank you very much for joining me tonight, and God bless you, and good night to everyone.